friends. Welcome to the In Character Q&A video. Today, I will be reading out the many wonderful questions you've asked me, and I will be doing my very best to respond to them. Without any additional fanfare, I'll go ahead and get started. So please relax and enjoy. This first question is from Arrow, who asks, "Can I have a hug?" To which I say, "Of course, my little friend. You're always welcome to have a hug whenever you should need it." Next, Finn Venerius asks, "What is your favorite way of comforting your tiny friend?" This is a tough question, but I suppose I would say reassurance and cuddles. Whether they need a reminder of how special and wonderful they are, or if they need advice, or if they just need to know that I'm there for them, I would say that it's what feels the most impactful to me, and keeping them safe and close in my embrace is quite nice as well. It's a bit therapeutic for me as well, honestly, feeling the presence of someone against me, even if they are much smaller than me. Nova Woodpeck asks, "Does the giant just chill about until he remembers the listeners?" Well, usually when I have a visitor over, I like to let them have their own personal space and time. Sometimes when they stop by, they're not really there to hang out so much as take some time off from the rest of the world. So I do my best to let them come to me rather than coming to them, so to speak. But that said, occasionally I do forget that I have company over, and it is a pleasant surprise when I realize that they're lurking about. Nova Woodpeck also asks, "Do the listeners live with you?" Which I will pair with a question from Lime Macaroon, who asks, "Can I live with you forever, please?" And unfortunately, I generally discourage permanent residence in my abode aside from myself, because I haven't incorporated the necessary long-term independent living arrangements that would be necessary. I do my best to provide a space for my visitors to stay in a sort of hotel room, as I've heard it referred to, place to rest, keep up with hygiene, and store clothes and other important items. However, my visitors are still required to rely on me for services such as cooking, which I'm sure some might not be opposed to, but I want to ensure that no friend of mine is dependent on me for survival, lest something happen to cause my temporary absence. This to say, I've yet to be made aware of any small folk who lives full-time at my house, Most stay temporarily and live in a nearby town which I watch over. Let's see. On a more lighthearted note, Prokotsky01 asks, what kind of drawings did you do before you stopped for a while? To be honest, I'm flattered that you'd ask. I mostly stuck with still life, for reasons I suspect to be a bit obvious. I enjoyed recreating long expanses of forests, nearby small folks' towns notably. Something about a speckle of civilization followed by hours and hours of simple, repetitive trees. I found it very relaxing. Of course, I wasn't a stranger to drawing the trees and foliage and such that grow even above my head. I think they're beautiful in their own right, but I did and still do largely prefer to draw small little repetitions. One edgy cinnamon roll had a few questions. First is, what's your favorite thing about humans? This may sound a bit pompous, but I love humans' tenacity. It's a bit hard for me to imagine something so small having so much courage, so much creativity. One of my favorite things is when there's a concert in the outdoor amphitheater in town. I like to stroll down there very cautiously and rest myself among the trees nearby as to not disturb the audience or performers. The movement and the music and the life that the humans can create is captivating. So, I'd say, yes, I think the creativity that humans have is my favorite thing. They also ask, do you prefer blankets or pillows? I would say I prefer blankets, because with blankets you can fold them up and use them as pillows, but with pillows you unfortunately can't tend to use them as blankets. And one edgy cinnamon roll's final question is, what is your favorite style or genre of music? Do you listen to music at all? I don't know music genres very well, but I would say some of my favorite music that I've heard has a very growly sound to it, as well as many shrill, scratching sounds, and I find the lyrics are often cacophoned out in a rather harsh way, rather than sung like one might consider a minstrel to do. I believe the term I've heard is heavy metal, but I might be thinking of a different genre. That to say, I think I enjoy it so much because it's so unlike what I usually hear. I can sing to myself, or a visiting friend may play something acoustic, and of course I can hear the sounds of nature, but the scratchier, more empowered music has a distinct rattle that I don't often hear. It's a nice juxtaposition to my daily life. Nina Perry also has a few questions. Firstly, have you ever considered putting the listener in your hair? I haven't before, no. However, you do bring up an interesting suggestion. I'll have to try it out sometime. Perhaps with a more adventuresome friend, rather than a timid one. Thank you for the advice. Nina Perry's second question was, what is your favorite thing that a tiny does? This is very difficult to answer. To be honest, any question asking about my favorite thing is so very difficult to answer. If I had to say one thing in specific, I really do love when my little friends come to visit. It's always an honor when they stop by, and the company always keeps me at peace. So, I'm not sure if that counts. Hopefully it does. And Nina Perry also asked a similar question to another commenter, Gambit, so I will put them together here. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be human? And if you found yourself to be human-sized for the day, what's the first thing you do? I have wondered. Of course, it's hard not to, being around as long as I have. I believe if I were to suddenly find myself at the size of a human, I would want to go visit a bakery, and I'd pick up little gifts for my friends. Wait. No, I wouldn't have money. Well, I suppose I might get a job then, though I don't know what that might entail. Maybe I'd go to the park, and I'd see what a little folk park looks like. And perhaps I'd invite my friends and we could go walk on trails and feed the ducks, or something of that nature. Of course, if I had a reason to believe that the new size was permanent, I'd likely invest some time in figuring out a solution to return back to normal. Nothing against you, little folk, of course. I simply don't want to be small forever. Let's see. Next. Nightmare the Glitch asks, do you ever get angry? If so, what makes you angry? I do get angry on rare occasions. I do my best not to be, and luckily I think my gentle nature has blessed me with a great deal of patience. However, I do find injustice to be grating, and particularly when enacted on those I care about. I find it hard not to use my physicality to turn to vigilantism. Of course, to date, I've only had a few moments of such action. Stories, perhaps, for another time. Cherry has a few questions. Firstly, does the ground shake when you walk? Yes. I have been told that the ground does shake a bit when I'm out and about. However, I am quite a bit lighter than my impressive size might suggest. Particularly when walking around my own abode, I don't tend to notice anything amiss when I walk around. Although when I traverse near a town I'm aware of, I tend to go a bit more lightly. Both so I don't disturb the architecture, and so I avoid squishing any unnoticed little folk. Second question was, do you find humans cute? And if so, why? Yes, I do find humans quite cute. I would say I think the way they move is fascinating. I'm a bit slower with my movements, so it's astounding to me how quickly they get around. I think it doesn't hurt that humans are so small compared to myself. It gives them a sort of diminutive charm. And third, what is your name if you have one? I have quite a few names, and I often forget them. I won't lie. Giants are relatively solitary creatures for practical purposes. Particularly larger giants, such as myself, tend to keep far apart from one another, as to avoid trampling the land irreparably, which also means we don't tend to communicate much, unless with small folk like humans. That said, I have been referred to by the name Clement a few times in the past years, which I'm fond of. But I'm always happy to hear what my little friends prefer calling me. And fourth question from Cherry is, have you ever scared someone on purpose? Oh dear. I regret to say that I have. Usually a genuine fright is only given to ruffians or other ne'er-do-wells. Unsavory sorts I need to hurry off to help a friend. However, I do recall an unfortunate Halloween in which I had attempted to assist in scaring the local trick-or-treaters as a bit of fun. However, I suspect a towering, shadowy figure lit only by the moon overhead was a bit too much for many of them, and I was told off quite understandably by the mayor at the time. I haven't participated in a Halloween since. And Cherry's final question, and I believe the final question for me, is, what is the weirdest encounter you've had with a human? Weird encounters. I've not often had weird encounters, or at least any I would consider more weird than others. I do recall one particularly curious small folk asking me if I used flying saucers as frisbees, and subsequently explaining to me what a frisbee was. I have had a few fans, I suppose, visiting my abode, which can be a bit strange for me, as I don't see anything notable about my abode. But I suppose when you see a massive structure on your horizon, you can't help but be curious. But, I would say perhaps any of those you might consider to be the weirdest encounter. But with that, I do believe I'm done. Thank you all so much for asking these delightful questions. I very much appreciate the chance to get to answer them all. And with that being said, I will now pass the baton, so to speak, off to the resident friendly cat boy, and I will bid you all a wonderful night. Good night, my little friends. Sleep well.
Hello, everyone. I'm just here for a brief second. I just had one question to answer, and, yes, I wanted to pop in and say, thank you for tuning in, and, I'll get right on with the question asking and answering, and then I'll go ahead and we'll end the in-character segment. So, without further ado, thank you all for making it this far. And the question that was asked to me was from Prokotsky01, who asks, what do you like to do for fun? Gosh, I do like doing things. I really like going on walks. There's a lovely forest nearby here that has some lovely hiking trails. I have a little nature club I attend. We go on walks and we look at plants and birds and such. There's lots of different smaller clubs, and we all kind of meet up together sometimes. It's very fun. And, aside from that, I like Sudoku, or Sudoku. You know what I'm talking about. The one with the boxes and all the numbers. It's very fun. It's a little brain teaser. And, I also like watching TV. I don't know if that counts as doing something, but it's a bit of a habit of mine to watch an episode or two of something before I go to bed. It helps me relax. And, yeah, those are some of my hobbies, the things I like to do for fun, and so on and so forth. Yes, that would be the question that I was given. And I hope you will enjoy listening to it. And with that being said, if you'd like to tune out of the video now, that is perfectly alright. The out-of-character questions will be coming up shortly. So if you would like to tune in for those, just stick around. And if you have finished listening to all the questions that you would like to listen to, you're more than welcome to head out, and hopefully we will see you in a future video. So, thank you, sleep well, good night, and with that, on to the out-of-character questions.
Hello everyone, welcome to the final section of this video. My name is Secret Sauce, as I'm sure you figured out. Today I'll be answering some questions, and I do have a few words of thanks, but I'll save that for the end. So, without further ado, the first question is from Elio Guerra. They ask, how did you get your ASMR equipment? Was it given to you? Did you buy it yourself? And if so, where did you buy it from, and how much would you say that it cost? I have been meaning to make a video on my ASMR recording and equipment in more depth, but simply put, I haven't yet, so the short answer is that I bought my microphone while it was on sale. It is a Blue Yeti, but at the time because one color, the silver microphone, wasn't selling as well, I guess. It was quite a bit cheaper, and then there was another sale for all of the microphones as a whole. So I want to say, wherever I got it from, it was roughly like 60 or 75% off. Probably not that much, but it was roughly, I think, 60% off, something like that. But before, when I first began recording and learning how to do ASMR, and before I published anything on this channel, I used all of my older siblings' equipment. I used their microphone. So that's how I began to voice act. As for other equipment, I use Audacity, which is free, or at least it was when I got it. And I also use Adobe Photoshop, because the subscription also comes with Premiere Rush, which is a video editing software. And that's roughly $20 a month, I think, now, for whatever reason. The gift cards you can get are roughly $120, but now my subscription's gone up to $20 a month. I don't know. $120 for a year, I should say. So, that being said, it was roughly, I want to say, maybe $100 for the microphone or less, maybe $75, and an extra $120 to $240 a year total for Adobe. So that's roughly the estimate of the price. However, I will say that when it comes to what I use Adobe for, it is almost entirely doable for by free softwares. I just use Adobe because it's what I've always had. So I've used Adobe back since before it was a subscription, which I don't think was actually that long ago, but I got a very old copy of it and used it until it wouldn't work on my computer anymore. So all that to say, you can very easily get a cheaper microphone if you want to get into ASMR yourself, and you can use free software very easily to do the stuff I do. That said, next question. The Nova Woodpack asks, will we ever get to see more of the giant boyfriend? And I will say that this was asked before the most recent upload of the giant boyfriend. That being said, honestly, I'm not too sure if and when he'll be making an appearance. I'm not personally too fond of boyfriend audios, if only because I don't feel I do them justice, which is quite funny, because I'll often go to say something like a pet name or like some sort of affectionate statement, and I will just completely blank on it, and I'll have to pause the recording, think of what I want to say, and start it back up again. That said, I am not opposed to boyfriend-style audios, and most of the commissions I receive are for boyfriend characters, which genuinely I take as a compliment, that someone would enjoy my voice enough to want to hear my impression of a boyfriend character. So, more than likely you will hear more giant boyfriends in the future, but as of this moment, outside of commissions, I don't have any plans to make any myself. Next question. Ian Rivera asks, do you ever think you would make yourself the tiny in any videos in the future? Yes, I would absolutely adore that. Actually, near the beginning of my channel, I had the idea to do a rude tiny audio as a joke, because I'd only made the friendly giant audios by that point. So I was thinking it could be a funny April Fool's, where instead of uploading a audio where you have a giant who's acting very kindly towards you, you have this tiny person
for whatever reason, just has it out for you. But joke audios aside, I would love to do a series or just a single audio or anthology or whatnot where I play a tiny character, whether they are normal sized and there's a giant listener, or if they're tiny, or if they shrink somehow. I think it'd be very fun. Let's see. Prokotsky01 asks, which of your characters is your favorite? And honestly, I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's very hard to say for me. Of course, the Friendly Giant is very comfortable for me. I've done so much of his content that it's very easy for me to get into his character. And especially because he speaks so slowly that I have a bit more time to keep up mentally with what I want him to say. Especially compared to the cat boy, who speaks so quickly that I often get tongue-tied trying to say lines for him. But I think my favorite character to play, at least, would be the mage, because I think his very casual nature is fun to play with. I very much have the opinion with him that he'll answer just about any request with sure, why not? And that's a very silly personality to play with, in my opinion. And when it comes to my favorite character just in general to think about or to, just to have in the arsenal of characters, honestly, I don't know. I suppose the Friendly Giant, just because he's been around the longest. So. Next, Henri asks, what are some of your other hobbies or things you do in your spare time when you're not creating content? I love art. I've been doing art since I was a toddler, and ever since I learned how to do line art with a mouse, I've been working digitally. So digital art specifically is one of my favorite things to do when I have the inspiration, and it comes and goes. But I also really love D&D and tabletop role-playing games in general, and I've actually had the immense pleasure of being able to combine my art with my most recent tabletop group. We're all artists, so we're all always drawing each other's characters or drawing goofy moments from our games. And honestly, that's about what I do on a weekly basis. Art, tabletop games, and recording. Though, I will say, I don't really consider it a hobby. But whenever I exercise at home, I have a exercise bike. So I'll exercise on it while I watch a few episodes of Hilda, the animated series, because it's a very cute show. I've just begun the second season. I just started recently. But it's a very sweet show and has beautiful graphics. So that, yes. Speaking of, Henri also asks, do you have a favorite movie or show? My favorite movie specifically would probably be You've Got Mail, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, or the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. However, if you're not a romance fan, Shin Godzilla is also excellent. I saw it for the second time just recently with a group of my friends. It was very funny because we were making fun of it the entire time, but very much in a way that was, you make fun of it because it's so good, not because it's so bad. So, as for favorite TV shows, I have, as I mentioned, been watching Hilda recently, and it's excellent. I love the natural feel of the relationships within it, and how it very much feels like everyone is a person rather than just a trope. One of my favorite things from the third episode is Hilda meets a group of children who have very different lifestyles than her. But they're not the mean kids necessarily. They don't treat her rudely because she is different. In fact, it's quite the opposite at one point. She storms off because they are, I don't want to spoil anything, but they're acting quite meanly. And she storms off, and the kids kind of chastise their leader for scaring her off. It's very interesting because it feels very natural. But aside from Hilda, I've also been enjoying Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It's also quite a good show, and I think the cast is very fun, and seeing their interactions, and the art style is very unique in my opinion. I've yet to see something similar to it. Granted, I don't partake in much animated media. I don't tend to watch TV a lot, but it's so pretty. So those would be my two favorite shows as of right now, and my favorite movies. One edgy cinnamon roll had a few questions. The first is, what is the best compliment you've ever received? For this channel specifically, I couldn't say. Honestly, every compliment I get is so kind and thoughtful, and not to get too carried away, but I am just genuinely still blown away by how many people frequent my videos. It is amazing. But, just my favorite compliment ever given to me in general or in person, I do have one of those. It was probably not even meant as a compliment. It's probably just meant as a thing to be said, but during one of my classes at my college a few years ago, I was in a sign language class, and so during the class period we wouldn't speak out loud, but we'd have like a 15-minute break for everyone to kind of relax and kind of soak in the knowledge, and we would talk very, very openly with one another. It was not a closed off kind of class. We sat in a circle so that we could all see the signs that were being said, and it was at one point I was talking with some lovely people, and I swore very openly in the middle of class, and about 3 people around me all gasped, and one of them said, "You swear? You can't swear, you're too pure. You're too much of a cinnamon roll. That was weird. Do not do it again." Honestly, I still smile thinking about it, because I didn't really consider myself to be like a wholesome boy. I just kind of considered myself to be a person who happened to be very nice. Not to toot my own horn, but the thought that people thought it was weird for me to swear because I was too pure of a bean, as one might say, I thought it was very funny. Next question by one edgy cinnamon roll is opinions on the Oxford comma, and for me that's simply a must. It feels a bit weird not using them. That said, if someone doesn't use them in something they're writing to me, I don't tend to throw a fit. As long as I understand what you're saying. Everyone has their own way of writing and talking, so I think it's fine. And the last question was, what is your favorite color combination? This is a tough one. I'm not wholly certain, to be honest, though I'm very partial to green and beige. Contrary to what you might think from my thumbnails, I'm very partial to natural tones. I think maybe like a sea foam and a dark brown I really like those as well. Or like any greenish blue and a dark brown. Those are beautiful together. Let's see. What's the next question? Nina Perry wants to know, what is your favorite kind of audio to record? Good question. I honestly really like the personal care ones. I usually record them when I'm feeling a bit down myself, so it's nice, kind of a pick-me-up, like I'm telling myself and the listener both that we matter and to make sure to drink water and change clothes and such. Plus, it's not a lot of editing for those kinds of audios. Usually I can get them from recorded to uploaded in about an hour. And I do enjoy audios with lots of soundscapes and such. They're just very difficult to record and then create the sounds for them and edit all of it to make it sound good. And with all the stacked audio layers, there's of course the background noise, and sort of getting that out without making the audio sound strange. It's quite a lot of work. It's not work I dislike necessarily. It's just I do like it when my job is the easy one. So Gambit asks, do any of your characters have canon names, or do you prefer to leave that for the listener's imagination? I do have tentative names for them, yes. I have considered the name Clement for the friendly giant, Ryback for the cat boy, and Chaudry for the chill mage. But that said, I don't use them in audios because, as you suggested, I'd rather let the listener create their own persona of the character and let them fill in as many blanks as they can. That said, if I were to make a two-person audio, which it has been floating around in my mind, I might officially name them, just so they're not having to call each other "Hey you" the entire time, or cleverly weasel their way around saying each other's names. But if I do that, I'm not exactly sure what I will name them. I might stick with the names I have for them right now, or I might change them. But for now, I don't really give much thought to it, since I generally prefer to leave as much blank as possible. But thank you for the question. It was fun getting to talk about the kind of more behind-the-scenes stuff. Let's see. Little Lily asks, what aspects of the size stuff do you like? Do you enjoy the idea of being in the bigger role like your characters? Or do you enjoy being on all ends of the spectrum? Or do you just enjoy size difference content without necessarily self-inserting? Another good question. To be honest, when I myself engage with size difference on my own accord and not recording it for uploading it onto YouTube, I prefer being the smaller one, actually. I've always wondered what it would be like, existing at a few inches tall and exploring the world, and, interacting with normal-sized things at a much smaller size and seeing how that might affect things, and it's just very interesting to me to think about. But that said, I'm by no means upset with portraying larger or giant-sized characters, and honestly, I've gained an appreciation for being on the larger size in size different settings thanks to the ASMR I produce, which I think is quite funny, because before I really didn't care for being the big one at all. I had done a few kind of musings with a few very close friends where they were the ones on the small side and I was the one on the big side. And it wasn't awful, per se, but it was never something that I really wanted to pursue. But when I began making audios, of course I wanted to make audios that I would enjoy. And so I thought, well, I always like it when people make, audios of a big character doing something. So that's what I want to make. And then I wound up actually really enjoying it, so. As a follow-up question, Little Lily also asks, any preference on specific sizes? So in regards to people being small, notably, naturally small, but also, can be shrunken or whatnot, I tend to enjoy a size somewhere between 2 and 12 inches. I've heard it referred to as doll size. I feel like that generally keeps a smaller party within a visible height range, while still getting notably different view in comparison to their larger companion. However, in regards to giants, I'd say roughly house-sized, like maybe 10 to 20 feet tall. Though I do think that being giant enough to fit a human in your hand is fun, I inevitably start thinking about the logistics of being at that size, and I ruin my own enjoyment for it. So, I do believe this is our last question. Let me see here. Yes, okay. I just had to make sure before I said lastly. So, the last question. Hero Distinto asks, would you ever consider doing an audio like with your gentle giant, but with a non-human speaker? And if so, would you consider doing one with a giant dragon? And also, they say hello from Mexico. So first of all, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And second off, yes, I would love to do something like that, honestly. I did, purely by chance, wind up recording a Naga audio, but that was more same size kind of content. And I would love to do more non-human characters with size difference specifically in mind. And when it comes to specifically a draconian speaker, I think that I would like to experiment a bit with the voice, because I would like to see if I could add a kind of a bassy rumble to the vocals. And yes, to be honest, I have a few characters still that are just kind of lying around waiting for me to record something eventually. Maybe I should do a month of all new characters and stories or something. Maybe for October, just do a monster of the week for October. That could be fun, I think, but I'm not sure. We'll have to see about it. But yes, that was the last question. I believe we're done. I hope that I've answered all of your questions in a satisfactory manner. If I haven't, you're more than welcome to leave a comment letting me know. And if I missed a question, you are more than welcome to ask it again. I did not intentionally leave it out. So, if you had a question that you asked and I didn't go over it, please feel free to leave it in the comments section, and I will personally respond to it over in the comments. That said, I hope you've all enjoyed. This was a very exciting undertaking, and I think, judging purely by the length of this audio alone, that goes to say something about it. Goodness gracious me. But that said, I hope you all enjoyed. I know I've said that several times now, but it has been such a pleasure to do this. I genuinely hope that it was as much of a pleasure for you as it was for me. I'd love to do this again sometime, if you all might be interested. It was absolutely delightful. Perhaps for the 1,000 subscribers or something. Honestly, I have no idea what to expect from this channel. I'm still amazed that so many of you have joined so far for this little journey of mine. Such an amazing honor to be here, making content that I enjoy, and knowing that other people enjoy it as well. And if I may mention, this was supposed to be a 600 subscriber celebration, and before I even finished recording this, someone had already mentioned, by the way, congratulations on 700 subscribers. And how? Where did you all come from? But yes, thank you so much. It is truly just an honor, and I don't want to be too sappy, because if I start going off about how amazed I am, I will be here for the next hour just talking about how amazing this entire experience is. So, for now, I'll simply say thank you for everyone for joining me on this tremendous occasion. I really hope you enjoyed all of the questions and answers, and I hope that you feel fulfilled. And if you don't, feel free to let me know. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm more than happy to answer them. But, yes, I'll see you all in the future at some point, whether in character or out. And, thank you again for being here. Good night, sleep well, and I'll see you later.